6 words cut through silent night like a blade. I shoved the door with my shoulder, cradling my trembling grandmother in my arms, stepping into the glow of the Christmas tree lights and frozen champagne glasses. The badge on my chest caught the reflection. For the first time in my life, my family went silent. My name is Anna Thompson. I'm a police lieutenant, and 2 hours earlier, I found my grandmother freezing to death in the garage. My Crown Vic rolled through the snow on Christmas night. I'd just come off a 12-hour shift, 3 car crashes, 2 domestic fights, 1 burglary. The radio was quiet. Christmas is usually calm for normal families. Sergeant Rodriguez had said, "Go home, Thompson. Tonight's a family night." Home. For me, just an apartment with a single photo on the fridge. Grandma in her blue sweater, smiling the way she used to when I still believed in miracles. But she had family. 6 months of silence was too long already. I parked half a mile away. My breath rose white in the cold. Snow crunched under my boots as I crossed the yard I used to mow as a kid. Through the living room window, warm golden light spilled out. A tall Christmas tree strung with hundreds of tiny bulbs, silver and gold ornaments, a crystal chandelier overhead. Laughter floated through the glass, blending with holiday music from a surround sound system. I saw them. Dad with his crystal whiskey glass, Mom in a silk red dress, Tommy telling a story, Megan clapping along to the music. A perfect family. A Christmas out of a magazine. But missing one person. Where was Grandma? I circled to the back. The double garage, white doors, spotless. No lights, no sound. I tried the remote. By some grace, it still worked. The door rattled upward with the screech of metal. Air poured out like from a freezer, cold, damp, suffocating. And then I saw her, Grandma Margaret, 78 years old, 40 years a teacher, lying on a thin mattress laid straight on the concrete floor, a cotton blanket as thin as paper. No pillow, no heat. The wall thermometer, 36 degrees. Refrigerator cold. Grandma? My voice echoed in the empty space. She turned her head slowly. Brown eyes that once sparkled, now clouded. Lips blue from the cold. Her body trembling, out of control. Anna? You came back? I knelt beside her. Skin pale as paper, cold as stone. Her breath shallow, weak. In the corner, 3 empty prescription bottles. Where's your heart medicine? Ran out 4 days ago. The kids were busy with Christmas. I didn't want to bother them. My chest tightened. 4 days without heart meds. At 78. In this cold. On the floor, a plastic bowl with frozen cereal. A nearly empty water bottle. Bread so hard it could crack, expired last week. Grandma, what have you been eating? Enough, dear. I'm fine. Fine. My grandmother, who once taught the whole neighborhood to read, lying on a bare concrete floor, telling me she was fine. Rage swelled inside me, but not at her. At the sound of laughter from the warm house. At the clinking of champagne glasses. Why aren't you inside the house? She looked away. They have their own lives. Important friends. They're ashamed of me. I'm old now. A burden. The words stabbed straight through me. Ashamed. Burden. About my grandmother, the woman who held me through thunderstorms, who taught me kindness. I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app, set up an automatic transfer, $2,000 a month. Note: elder care, medicine, food, heat. 3 years, $72,000. Then I opened my mother's Facebook page, and my stomach dropped to the freezing floor. The latest post: perfect Christmas Eve. New Tesla ready for the New Year's road trip. Photo: a red Tesla with a giant gold bow. Price tag: 80 grand. Last month: new hot tub. Who needs Hawaii when you've got paradise at home? Installation cost: 20,000. The month before that: surprise trip to Hawaii. Life's too short not to enjoy it. Estimate: 18,000. Each post lined up with my transfers. Every dollar, every transaction. They took her heart medicine money to buy a Tesla. They took her grocery money to install a hot tub. They took her heating money to sip cocktails in Hawaii. And here she was, shaking on concrete, apologizing for being a bother. Memories rushed in. 8 years old, Grandma teaching me to read while my parents were too busy. The smell of vanilla cookies in the oven. Her patient voice. Slowly now. Smart girls like you always figure it out. 12 years old, parent-teacher night. My parents had an important meeting. She showed up instead, wearing her best dress, beaming when the teacher called me bright and kind. 16. Telling my family I wanted to join the police academy. Dinner turned into a battlefield. Shouts about wasting my talent, choosing a dangerous life. She sat quiet, arms folded. And when they stormed out, she put her hand on my shoulder. You've got a heart for protecting people who can't protect themselves. That's a gift. Don't waste it. And now, she lay on a concrete floor while they toasted success with champagne bought with her medicine money. Grandma, I said, slipping off my police jacket, wrapping it around her frail shoulders. We're going inside. No, dear. They have guests. They're happy. I don't want to ruin their party. Ruin the party. 78 years old, terrified of ruining Christmas just because she wanted heat and medicine to live. I lifted her, light as a bird. 30 pounds lost in just a few months. She didn't resist, just sighed, her head resting on my shoulder. They'll be angry with you. Something in me hardened into steel. Let me handle that. We walked through the snow toward the front door. The glow from the windows spilled across the yard. Laughter and carols swelled louder. I rang the bell, 3 times, steady as gunfire. Hurried footsteps inside. The lock clicked. The door cracked open 4 inches, just enough for politeness, but still a barrier. My mother's face appeared in the narrow gap, bright red lipstick glowing under the porch light. For 1 second, she didn't register what she was seeing. Then her expression rearranged itself. Surprise, then annoyance, then that practiced smile. The same smile that had tucked me in as a child and cut me to pieces for 30 years. Anna! You should have called first. Her eyes flicked past me, saw Grandma in my arms. Her face shifted again, irritation to fear, then quickly back to control. She's resting. You know she needs quiet on nights like this. My father leaned into view behind her, jaw clenched hard. A glass of 25-year Macallan in his hand, $200 a pour. Don't make this a scene, Anna. It's Christmas. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove my shoulder into the door. Oak splintered with a sharp crack, swinging wide. Heat flooded out like a tide, carrying the scent of cinnamon, roasted meat, and something else. The smell of freshly spent money. I stepped across the threshold, police boots leaving wet snowprints on a $5,000 Persian rug. Conversation inside cut off instantly, like someone had yanked the plug. The living room looked like a Pottery Barn showroom. A 75-inch OLED mounted like art on the wall. Cognac Italian leather sofa big enough for 10, polished to a mirror shine. A Venetian crystal chandelier scattering rainbows across the ceiling. Brazilian cherry hardwood floors gleaming under it all. Money. Everywhere screamed money. In my arms, Grandma still trembled, but less than she had in the garage. My eyes swept the room automatically, cataloging like a crime scene. By the fireplace, 5 stockings hung neatly on the marble mantel, names stitched in real gold thread. David, Linda, Tommy, Megan. Just 4. No stocking for Margaret Hall, the woman who had lived in this house for 30 years, raising 3 children after her husband died young. That absence screamed louder than the music. Tommy emerged from the kitchen, a craft IPA in his hand, $12 a six-pack. His college boy grin collapsed the moment he saw her. His eyes flicked from Grandma's pale face to the police jacket wrapped around her frail body. The bottle in his hand shook like an aftershock. Megan set her iPhone 14 Pro Max down on the coffee table, clear $300 case catching the light. My little sister, sophomore year, $15,000 in tuition, went from confusion to fear as she registered what she was seeing. Dad stepped out from the kitchen, cradling a glass of Pappy Van Winkle bourbon, a $1,000 bottle. His eyes hardened the moment he saw me. Not Grandma, never Grandma, but me, with the irritation of a CEO whose meeting had been interrupted. I adjusted my hold on her, feeling ribs sharp under the thin cotton nightgown. 30 pounds lost in 3 months. Elder malnutrition, plain and brutal. Under the Christmas tree sat a mountain of carefully wrapped gifts. Nordstrom bags for Megan, Best Buy boxes for Tommy, probably a new PlayStation and a MacBook Pro. Tiffany & Company for Mom, golf gear from the PGA Tour shop for Dad. Conservative estimate, $15,000 in gifts, all stacked neatly under the tree, while Grandma rationed her heart pills. I pulled out my phone, said nothing, opened the banking app with military precision, turned the screen toward them like a prosecutor presenting evidence. The most recent transaction glared like neon. December 15th, $2,000 transferred. Memo line, medical care for Margaret Hall. Tommy saw it first. His face shifted from the flushed pink of privilege to the ashen gray of someone caught red-handed. I scrolled down deliberately, like chambering around. November 15th, $2,000. Grandma's medicine fund. Megan started to cry. Not movie tears, not sobs, just silent streams running down her cheeks, smearing foundation that cost more than Grandma's monthly food budget. October 15th, $2,000. Grandma's heating bill. Mom's hand tightened around her new tennis bracelet, white gold and diamonds spelling BLESSED. The same one she'd flaunted on Facebook with her book club. 3 years, $72,000. The pattern clear as a sniper's scope. Dad set his bourbon glass down on the imported Italian granite countertop. The sound echoed through the silence, thick as smoke. I scanned the room again with an investigator's eye. New TV, new furniture, new chandelier. a new life built on the back of the frail woman trembling in my arms. Tommy tried to speak, his voice cracking like a teenager's. "Anna, we just thought she would—" "Don't!" The word cut like a blade. Megan's tears came faster. "We didn't mean—" "Don't." Again. A mantra. Silence pooled between us like black ice on a highway. Deadly. Slick. Waiting for someone to slip. I heard the HVAC kick on. Heard Grandma's teeth chatter once, then fall quiet. Heard my own heartbeat pounding in my throat like a prisoner demanding release. Inside me, the cop training engaged. Assess the scene. Warm, festive environment. Victim discovered outside in freezing temperatures, improperly clothed. Family present. Indicators of deliberate neglect. Financial support from reporting party repeatedly misappropriated. But inside me, too, the granddaughter remembered another Christmas. 7 years old. Grandma teaching me to make gingerbread houses in the kitchen, flour everywhere, laughing when frosting got stuck in my hair. She'd said, "The magic of Christmas isn't in the gifts, sweetheart. It's in the love we share." And now, Grandma shared a garage floor with concrete and hypothermia, while they shared champagne paid for with her heart medicine. I shifted her weight in my arms and faced them. Their eyes darted everywhere but the truth I was carrying. "You erased her," I said, my voice flat, the way an officer gives testimony in court. "You've been erasing her for years." Dad straightened, trying to reclaim his alpha stance. "You don't understand the financial realities. We have obligations, mortgage, credit cards, maintaining a lifestyle. We couldn't just stop." My tone cut sharper than I meant, but precise as GPS. "Don't say lifestyle." I gestured with my chin, arms still holding Grandma. "I see your lifestyle. The Tesla in the driveway, the hot tub in the backyard, the Hawaii vacation photos. All of it bought with her heart medicine money Mom tried damage control. We've been maintaining the family so everyone feels comfortable. Even her." "Comfortable?" The laugh burst out, sharp as a bark. 36 degrees in a garage is comfortable? I pulled Grandma closer. She had stopped trembling altogether. Either finally warm or sliding into the danger stage of hypothermia. $72,000, I went on. 3 years. Same note every month. Medical care, medicine fund, heating support. I swept the room with my eyes again, taking in the luxury. And I see exactly where it went. Kyle stood abruptly, fake courage cracking at the seams. "Look, we used some of that money to improve the house, to make everyone more comfortable." "Including her?" My voice dropped to a whisper more dangerous than a shout. Was she comfortable on the concrete floor? The silence was suffocating. "Answer me." Not a request, an order. The silence deepened. Guilt heavy as a wet blanket. I scanned their faces. Dad's jaw clenched like he was chewing nails. Mom's lips trembled like an aftershock. Tommy's arrogance evaporated like morning fog. Megan's mascara ran into abstract streaks down her cheeks. Not enemies in uniform, my own blood. And yet, strangers. "I'm taking her to the hospital," I announced. Not a debate, a fact. Dad tried one last time. "Anna, don't ruin Christmas for everyone." I paused in the doorway they'd forced me to break. Didn't look back. "You ruined it when you let her sleep on concrete while you toasted success." Snow kept falling as we stepped out. The door closed behind us with the finality of a coffin lid. I carried my grandmother out of that house, the door slamming shut behind us like a gunshot ripping through the night. Snow kept falling, white flakes landing on her shoulders, melting instantly against the warmth of my jacket. In my arms, her body felt weightless, 30 pounds gone in just 3 months. I opened the door of the Crown Vic and eased her carefully into the passenger seat. The heater roared to life at once. She shivered softly as the warm air touched her skin. Not the shiver of cold anymore, but the trembling of someone remembering what it felt like to be safe. The radio dispatch was quiet. I grabbed my phone and dialed Durham Regional Hospital. Durham Regional, emergency. Lieutenant Thompson, City Police. I've got an elderly female in need of immediate care. Suspected hypothermia. Off her heart meds for 4 days. Malnourished. Age and condition? 78. Margaret Hall. I looked at Grandma. She gave the weakest nod. We'll be ready. Tay? 15 minutes. I drove through streets heavy with memory. Every corner carried a ghost. Washington Elementary, where she taught for 40 years. The public library, where she took me every Saturday. The Dairy Queen, where she bought me a sundae after every good report card. Each memory cut like a fresh blade. 8 years old, in her tiny kitchen after school. My parents, busy with important meetings, the same old excuse for neglect. She sat with me at the scarred wooden table, patient, steady, guiding my finger across each word in the Dick and Jane reader. Take your time, sweetheart, she said, the smell of vanilla cookies filling the air. Smart girls like you always figure it out. No rush, no stress, just love and patience. 12 years old, the most important parent-teacher night of the year. Ms. Martin wanted to meet with my family to discuss the program for gifted students. Dad had a big client meeting. Mom had an important charity lunch. A grandma showed up instead, wearing her best navy dress, hair neatly brushed. She sat in a classroom too small for adults in a plastic chair, listening as Ms. Martin called me an exceptional student with a kind heart. Her face lit up like I'd just won the Nobel Prize. I'm so proud of you, she told me on the way home. You're going to do wonderful things. 16 years old. The dinner from hell. My decision to join the police academy dropped like a bomb. Dad exploded about wasted potential and a dangerous career. Mom worried about family reputation and what people will think. Tommy and Megan giggled about their weird sister with a gun. Grandma sat in silence at the head of the table, hands folded like she was praying. When the storm passed and they scattered to their rooms, she found me in the kitchen. She placed her weathered hands on my shoulders. You have a heart to protect people who can't protect themselves, she whispered. That's a rare gift. Teachers like me recognize potential when we see it. But they said, they're scared, she cut in gently. Scared you're stronger than they thought. Scared you'll choose a path they can't understand. But I understand. I've taught enough children to know the difference between a follower and a leader. She walked to the bookshelf and returned with an old photo album. Inside, pictures of her with generations of students. Faces lit up with learning, discovery, potential being nurtured. Teaching is about opening minds, she explained. Police work is about protecting those minds. Same mission, different tools. I remember that night as the first time in my life I felt truly understood. Red light. I stopped the car. Memories shifted into investigation mode. Phone out. Banking app open. Numbers don't lie. Numbers never lie. The pattern was clear as daylight. January 15th, $2,000 transfer. Senior care heating assistance. January 22nd, $1,847 BMW payment. February 15th, $2,000 transfer. Senior care medical supplies. February 20th, $1,923 Viking range payment. March 15th, $2,000 transfer. Senior care prescription medication. March 25th, $1,856 Pottery Barn payment. 3 years, 36 months. Clockwork precision. Total sent, $72,000. Actual spent on Grandma, estimate $14,400. Stolen amount, $57,600. Profit margin on elder abuse, 400%. In law enforcement, we have a term for this: systematic financial exploitation indicating premeditation. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't oversight. This was calculated theft from a vulnerable elderly woman, stretched out over years. Worse, this theft endangered her life. 4 days without heart medication at 78 could trigger cardiac arrest. Hypothermia exposure could cause organ failure. Malnutrition could collapse her immune system. They didn't just steal money. They attempted homicide through neglect. The light turned green. I accelerated toward the hospital, jaw clenched. "Anna?" Grandma's voice, weak but steady. "Don't be too angry. They lost their way. Not evil." Lost their way? The words tasted like poison. "Grandma, they stole $57,000 from your care fund." Long silence. "I wondered about the money," she finally admitted. "Bank statements came in the mail before they could hide them. I saw numbers that didn't add up. Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to destroy the family." Destroy the family. While they systematically destroyed her health and her dignity. They destroyed family the moment they chose a Tesla over your medicine. The hospital came into view, a modern building lit bright against the winter dark, a place where people still cared about healing. "Anna," Grandma whispered, "promise me something." "Anything." "Don't let anger consume your heart. Don't become cold like them. Remember why I was proud. Because you have compassion with your strength." I lifted her onto the gurney. Medics checked her vitals, wrapped her in warm blankets, started an IV with heated saline. Professional care, the kind she should have had months ago. As they wheeled her into safety, a promise formed in my mind. Not revenge, not hatred. Justice. Protection. Making sure this never happened to another elderly soul. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd memorized back at the academy. Adult Protective Services Emergency Hotline. I want to report elder abuse and financial exploitation. Details? Margaret Hall, 78. Systematic neglect by family. Medical care withheld. Approximately $60,000 misappropriated from care funds. Location? I gave the address. An investigator will be assigned within 24 hours. Do you have documentation? Bank records. Photographic evidence of living conditions. Medical assessment pending. Thank you. Case number APS-NC-122425-001. I hung up. Not revenge. Justice. Grandma would understand the difference. My phone buzzed. Dad. Anna, please. Let's talk about this. Don't destroy the family. I stared at the message. The family. As if they hadn't already destroyed it, leaving her to freeze while they toasted their stolen success. Another buzz. Mom. Think about our reputation. The neighborhood will talk. Your father's business will suffer. Reputation. Business. Image. Not one word about Grandma. Then, Tommy. Come on, sis. We can work this out. Family first, right? Family first. Right. I typed my reply. Grandma is safe. Report filed. The consequences are the choices you made. Send. Then I deleted their numbers. Some bridges deserve to burn. The hospital doors slid open. Time to sit with her while she got the care she deserved. Time to prepare for what came next. Justice doesn't sleep. Not even on Christmas. 2 hours later, I came back. Not Anna, their daughter, Justice, returned. The Crown Vic idled at the curb, its V8 rumbling like a warning. Beside it, the government sedan of Adult Protective Services, Durham County plates flashing under the streetlight. Behind that, the DA's office investigator's car, a convoy of law. Grandma was safe at the hospital now. Warm IV fluids, heart meds restored, a medical team watching her. For the first time in months, I could breathe. Now it was time for consequences. Through the window, I saw them, huddled in the living room like cornered animals. No Christmas party, no music, just dim light and panic etched across their faces. Investigator Sarah Chen from APS stepped out first. Mid-40s, eyes sharp as blades, 20 years of dealing with abuse burned into her stance. She carried a thick case file and an evidence camera. Lieutenant Thompson, she called, thanks for the report. This case has serious red flags. The detective Mike Rodriguez from the DA's office followed, specialist in financial crimes against the elderly. Laptop under one arm, a briefcase of legal documents in the other. Preliminary banking review shows a systematic pattern, he said flatly. $72,000 over 3 years, with clear misappropriation. We walked up to the front door. I didn't knock. This wasn't a courtesy call. 3 long chimes, authoritative, official. Inside, scrambling, voices raised, panic spiking. The lock turned with trembling hands. My mother's face appeared, eyes red from crying. When she saw the uniforms and the badges, terror spread across her features like ink in water. Chen raised her credentials. Adult Protective Services. We're investigating a report of elder abuse and financial exploitation. Rodriguez showed his badge. District Attorney's Office, Financial Crimes Division. Mom stood frozen, mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping on land. I stepped forward. Invite us in. Not a request, a command. The door opened wide, like a dam breaking. We entered the same living room where I had confronted them just hours earlier. But the atmosphere had shifted. Dad sat hunched on the edge of the Italian leather sofa, head in his hands. Tommy paced like a caged animal. Megan curled in the corner, mascara streaks drying on her cheeks. The Christmas tree still twinkled, but every ounce of joy had drained from the room. Chen lifted her camera. Each shutter click struck like a hammer in the silence. Rodriguez set his laptop on a coffee table worth more than most people's cars. Banking software filled the screen, numbers cascading like a waterfall of evidence. Mr. David Thompson, Rodriguez read from the file. You are the designated recipient of monthly transfers from Anna Thompson for the care of Margaret Hall? Dad lifted his head, face drawn. We. $72,000 over 36 months. Rodriguez continued, his tone clinical. Documentation shows the funds were designated for medical care, food, and utilities. He rotated the laptop screen toward the family. The spreadsheet glowed. Anna's incoming transfers lined up against outgoing luxury purchases. Tesla payment, January 22nd. Anna's transfer, January 15th. Hawaii vacation, March 1st. Anna's transfer, February 15th. Hot tub installation, September 8th. Anna's transfer, September 1st. The pattern undeniable. The timeline irrefutable. Mom started hyperventilating as the evidence stared back at her. We intended to use some of it for house improvements, to make things more comfortable for everyone. Including Mrs. Hall? Chen asked, camera snapping photos of the high-end furniture. The silence was tomb-like. Chen moved to the fireplace, her shutter clicking. I see Christmas stockings for the family. Where's Mrs. Hall's stocking? More silence. Damning. Can you show us Mrs. Hall's living arrangements? Chen pressed. Kyle raised a trembling hand, pointing toward the garage. We stepped outside. Chen rolled the door open. Camera flashes lit the scene like crime scene evidence. A thin mattress on bare concrete. Empty prescription bottles. A frozen cereal bowl. Temperature? 36 degrees. How long has Mrs. Hall been sleeping here? Chen asked. Tommy tried to lie. Just occasionally, when she wanted quiet. Rodriguez cut him off. Hospital records show chronic malnutrition and withdrawal from prescribed medications. The attending physician estimates months of neglect. The evidence piled like an avalanche. Every photo, every record, every medical note building the case higher. Back inside, the panic rose with the heat. Dad suddenly shot to his feet, desperation cracking through. Look, maybe we made mistakes, Dad stammered. But this is a family matter. We can work this out privately. Chen shook her head. Elder abuse isn't a private matter. It's a criminal matter. Rodriguez opened his briefcase, pulled out the legal documents. Based on the evidence, we have warrants for bank account freezes, asset investigations, and possible criminal charges. The word criminal hit the room like an explosion. Megan gasped. Criminal charges? I'll lose college. Tommy shot up, face red. This is bullshit. Family helping family. Helping? I spoke for the first time since we'd entered. Leaving her freezing in a garage while you drank champagne? That's helping? Dad tried one last desperate move. He stepped toward me, his voice dropping to a pleading whisper. Anna, please. This is your family. We can fix this. Make things right. She'll get the best care, private nurses, anything she needs. With what money? I asked, my voice cold. Tesla payments for the next 5 years? Hot tub loan? Maxed out credit cards from the Hawaii trip? The truth struck like a physical blow. They'd spent it all. There was nothing left for the best care they were promising. Rodriguez began reading off the legal implications. Asset seizure procedures, restitution requirements, potential felony charges for financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Each word was another nail in the coffin of the comfortable life they had built on stolen money. Mom collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing. The neighborhood will know. David's business will be ruined. How will we survive? The same way Grandma survived, I said, day by day, hoping someone cared enough to help. Chen finished photographing, packed up her equipment. The investigation will continue. Mrs. Hall has been placed under protective custody. A no-contact order is now in effect. No contact? Mom whispered. 0 contact until the investigation is complete. Rodriguez handed Dad the legal papers. Court date pending. I recommend legal counsel. As the officials prepared to leave, the family's desperation hit its peak. Dad grabbed my arm. You can't destroy the family like this. I looked down at his hand, then into his eyes. I didn't destroy anything. You destroyed it the moment you chose luxury over her life. I pried his grip off gently. Megan made a final plea, tears streaming. Anna will change. Transfer schools, leave town, anything. Just don't let this continue. Learning from consequences, I told her. That's part of growing up. Rodriguez and Chen left. I stayed in the doorway a moment longer. The family huddled together in the wreckage of Christmas morning, reality finally sinking into denial. Reports are filed, I announced. Banks notified. Investigation underway. I looked around the expensive room one last time. Hope it was worth it, and then I turned and walked out, leaving them in the ruins of the choices they had made. Outside, snow still fell, clean, white, pure, like justice finally served. Behind me, the family imploded, blame shifting, fear spreading, comfortable lies collapsing into uncomfortable truths. They would spend Christmas counting the cost of their greed. Grandma would spend Christmas being cared for, her dignity restored. Justice doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes, it looks like balance finally restored. 3 weeks later, I was sitting by Grandma's hospital bed. Not because she was still sick, but because it was the safest place for her while the investigation played out. She already looked stronger. Her skin had color again. Her weight had stabilized. Her eyes had life in them. Have they come to visit? She asked, her voice steady but hopeful. They're not allowed, I reminded her gently. The no-contact order is still in effect. She nodded, and I caught a flicker of sadness across her face. Even after everything, she still missed them. That's who she was. Heart too big. Forgiveness too ready. On the television, the news was running the story. Local family charged with elder abuse. A reporter stood in front of the Maple Street house. Neighbors gave interviews, saying things like, shocking revelation, and never would have guessed. Dad's business had collapsed. Word spread quickly in the community. Clients pulled out, contracts canceled. Tommy dropped out of college, couldn't afford tuition after the asset freeze. Megan transferred to community college, her scholarship revoked in the wake of the scandal. Mom barely left the house, curtains drawn, groceries delivered. Whispers followed them everywhere. Natural consequences, justice served, without me ever having to get my hands dirty. Dr. Patel entered the room, clipboard in hand. Mrs. Hall, good news! Cardiac function has stabilized. Malnutrition has reversed. You're cleared for discharge. To where? Grandma asked quietly. An assisted living facility, he explained. Court-ordered placement in a safe environment with proper supervision. Her face fell. After 40 years of teaching children, shaping young minds, building community. The idea of ending her days in institutional care felt like defeat. Actually, I interrupted, there's another option. They both looked at me. My apartment has an extra bedroom. I've been thinking, maybe you'd consider staying with me. Just temporary, until we figure things out. Her eyes filled with tears. You would do that? After everything with the family? You are family, I said simply. The real kind. The kind that shows up, that protects, that keeps promises. Dr. Patel smiled. Family care is always preferable. But Mrs. Hall will need regular checkups, medication monitoring, social services oversight. I'm a police officer, I said. I understand responsibility. The paperwork was finished. Discharge complete. Grandma packed what little she owned, mostly photos of her students over the years, a few books, her reading glasses. The simple belongings of a woman who had given everything to everyone else. On the drive back to my apartment, she stayed quiet, processing the change. Maybe grieving the loss of the familiar, because even when it's bad, familiar is still familiar. Anna, she finally said, I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden, I told her. You're an investment in the future I want. A future where elderly people are valued, protected, cherished. We stopped at a red light. I turned toward her. Besides, you taught half this town to read. It's time this town returned the favor. She laughed, the first real laugh I'd heard in months. The sound was like music. At the apartment, I showed her around. Small, but clean. An extra bedroom with a comfortable bed, good lighting for reading, a heater that actually worked. A bathroom with safety rails. A kitchen set up for easy access. It's perfect, she said, sitting on the bed. I feel safe. That word hit me hard. Safe. Something she hadn't had in her own family's house. That evening, we sat together watching old movies. She knitted while I read through police reports. A peaceful domestic scene. A normal family life. Maybe the first normal one she'd had in years. Then the phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Anna? The voice was broken, desperate. It's your mother. I stepped into the kitchen, lowering my voice. There's a no contact order. Please, just listen. We've lost everything. The house is in foreclosure. David's business is gone. Tommy had to drop out. We're sleeping in the car some nights. Part of me felt satisfaction. They were finally tasting what they'd forced Grandma to endure. But the larger part of me felt nothing. No joy in their suffering. Only emptiness. What do you want? Forgiveness. A chance to make amends. We were wrong. Terribly wrong. We want to apologize to your grandmother, to take care of her properly. It's too late for that. Please. My mother was sobbing now. We're family. No, I said firmly. Family doesn't abandon their elders in a garage. Family doesn't steal money meant for medicine. You may be blood, but you're not family. Grandma appeared in the kitchen doorway, having overheard. She motioned for the phone. Against my better judgment, I handed it to her. Linda? Her voice was soft. It's Margaret. The sobbing on the other end grew louder. I forgive you, Grandma said simply. All of you. Anger is poison. Hatred destroys. I choose peace. Can we see you? Make things right? Grandma looked at me. I shook my head slightly. Maybe someday, she said, when the healing is complete, when the lessons are learned, but not now. She hung up. Why? I asked. After everything. Because forgiveness isn't for them, she explained. It's for me. Carrying anger would make me sick again, just a different kind of sickness. Wisdom born of 78 years, 40 in a classroom, a lifetime of choosing grace over bitterness. But justice, I began. Justice and mercy can coexist, she interrupted. Justice makes sure they face consequences. Mercy makes sure I don't grow bitter. Both are necessary. Months passed. Grandma thrived in her new environment. Regular medical care, proper nutrition, stimulating conversations. She began volunteering at a literacy center, teaching adults to read, giving her purpose, using the skills she had sharpened across decades. I learned the rhythm of caregiving. Patience required. Small joys celebrated. Morning coffee together. Evening stories. Shared laughter. Real family built not on obligation, but on choice. The community rallied around her. Former students visited, bringing their grandchildren to meet Mrs. Hall. Elderly neighbors stopped by. My apartment became a hub of connection, warmth, and mutual support. The circle of found family kept expanding. The investigation wrapped up. My parents and siblings pled guilty to financial exploitation. They were ordered to pay restitution, sentenced to community service, and put on probation. No jail time, mercy, exactly as Grandma had requested, and the court honored it. They struggled, but slowly began to rebuild. A humbler life, maybe better values. Time would tell. A year later, Christmas came around again. Grandma and I decorated a small tree in the apartment. Simple ornaments, homemade cookies. Quiet joy. The doorbell rang. A flower delivery. The card read, Mrs. Hall, you taught me to read 50 years ago. You changed my life. Thank you for everything. With love, James Morrison, class of 1974. Grandma smiled through tears. This is real wealth, she said. Lives touched, minds opened, hearts changed. That evening, as snow began to fall again, we sat by the window. My police radio was quiet. A peaceful Christmas Eve. Anna, she said softly, what you did, standing up for me, that took courage. I just did what was right. More than that, you chose justice over comfort, truth over blind loyalty. You protected someone vulnerable when no one else would. That's heroism. I learned from the best teacher, I told her. She smiled. And I learned too. Learned that family is a choice, not an accident. Learned that asking for help isn't weakness. Learned that everyone deserves dignity, no matter their age, no matter their circumstances. Snow kept falling outside, but inside it was warm, safe, filled with love that had been earned through action, not handed down through blood. That Christmas was different. The real gifts weren't things under a tree. They were presence, care, respect. The kind of gifts money can't buy. If you're listening to this story, maybe it feels familiar. Maybe you know an elderly person who needs an advocate. Maybe you've seen warning signs of neglect or abuse. Or maybe you're an older adult yourself, feeling forgotten, overlooked, or devalued. Know this: you matter. Your dignity matters. Your life carries value far beyond what anyone else might assign to it. And if you're in a position to help, if you can be someone's Anna to their Margaret, please do. Check on your elderly neighbors. Question financial arrangements that don't seem right. Speak up when you see neglect. Family should protect its most vulnerable. And when blood family fails, found family must step in. Justice and mercy can coexist. Truth and love can dance together. Strength and gentleness can share the same space. Sometimes healing looks like consequences. Sometimes love looks like boundaries. And sometimes the greatest gift we can give is simple presence, steady care, unwavering advocacy. My grandmother taught me how to read. I taught her she deserved better. Together, we both learned what family really means. If this story touched you, share it. Subscribe to hear more, because every elderly person deserves warmth, dignity, and someone willing to fight for them. As Grandma always said, hearts change minds, and minds change the world. One story, one stand, one act of courage at a time. Merry Christmas. Stay warm. Stay safe. Stay human.